If you've ever been underestimated, worked tirelessly, only to be overlooked, then this story is for you. Watch until the end to truly feel the journey I've been through, from being fired to rewriting what success means on my own terms. And if you see a part of yourself in this story, don't hesitate to leave a comment and share your thoughts. Hit subscribe, not just to follow the next chapter, but to help build a community grounded in resilience and quiet strength. I heard my name before I even stepped into the executive lounge. Monica's team got lucky. That's all this is. The words drifted out from behind the frosted glass wall, sharp, dismissive. I paused, mid-step, pulse quickening. The binder in my hand felt suddenly heavier. She closed the contract, sure, but let's be honest. She's a regional lead from Omaha with a night school degree. We can't bet the company's future on people like that. That voice, Preston Hale, the new chief revenue officer, just appointed last quarter. Polished, ambitious, and with exactly 0 years of actual sales experience. A Wharton grad with a LinkedIn full of buzzwords and no battle scars. I took a slow breath and stepped in. Preston straightened. His suit was tailored. His smile even more so. Across from him sat Marjorie Dean, our CEO. Her eyes flicked up from her notes as I entered. "Monica," she said smoothly. "Perfect timing." Preston chimed in next. "Great news! We were just reviewing your $80 million deal with Redline Systems." "Phenomenal work," I nodded calmly. "The signed copies will be on your desk Monday." Marjorie offered a quick nod. "Actually, that's why we asked you here." I sat down, placed my binder squarely on the table, and folded my hands. First, she said, "Congratulations. It's the largest deal we've landed in a decade, which confirms the direction we need to go," Preston added. "Fortune 500's multinational partnerships." Then came the pivot. To support that growth, he continued, "We need leadership that reflects global excellence. Ivy League credentials, Tier 1 consultancy experience." I blinked. "What exactly are you saying?" Marjorie's eyes drifted briefly to the framed photo behind me and my son, taken at my graduation from Midwestern Tech College. I was 32, single mom, and I'd earned every credit while working nights. "Monica," she said softly, "we've decided to dissolve the business development division. Effective immediately." My breath caught. "You're dissolving my department?" "You laid great groundwork," Preston said with a politician's smile. "But to go further, we need a different caliber of executive presence." I said nothing, just gathered my binder, stood up, and nodded once. They had no idea that while they chased image, I had already built something far more powerful quietly off their radar. And this wasn't the end. Not even close. I kept my face calm, but inside something hardened, deep, and final. 6 years. 6 years of building this company's client base from scratch. Of red-eye flights and missed Thanksgivings. Of hitting every target they once labeled ambitious. And now, I was being dismissed like a contract hire they'd outgrown. I glanced at Marjorie. "So this is the thank you," I asked quietly, "for bringing in an $80 million deal." She shifted in her chair. "It's not personal, Monica. It's a strategic pivot." Preston nodded. "We're restructuring for global alignment." I smiled, cool and professional. "Of course." "Well, thank you for the opportunity." Preston blinked. Clearly, he expected me to push back. Maybe even tear up. I gave him nothing. I shook Marjorie's hand, firm and steady. "I wish you both continued success." And I meant it, because I already knew something they didn't. Redline Systems CEO Natalie Beck, the woman who personally signed off on that $80 million deal. She wasn't just a client. She was a friend. They didn't know I didn't win Redline with a flashy pitch deck or by name-dropping Ivy credentials. I won them by solving a $20 million supply chain failure no one else would touch. By flying to Tacoma at 2 a.m. when a warehouse crashed. By showing up working beside their logistics team, bringing coffee, and getting my hands dirty. Natalie didn't care about degrees. She cared about delivery. As I walked out of the office, my phone buzzed. A text. "Natalie. Still good for Monday morning. We've got the new contract version ready. Drinks after me? Wouldn't miss it." Preston's voice echoed in my mind. "We want executives with pedigree. I passed reception. No one looked up. Let them restructure. Because Monday morning, 9:00 a.m., they'd learn what happens when you trade competence for credentials. At 9:00 sharp, I took my seat in a quiet corner of Union Market Cafe, 2 blocks from my old office. Laptop open, coffee steaming beside me. I wasn't in the boardroom, but I knew exactly what was happening inside it. Marjorie and Preston were sitting across from Natalie Beck, waiting to finalize the biggest contract in company history. At 9:15, my phone buzzed again. Natalie. They just asked where you are. I smiled. Me. Tell them I'm exactly where I need to be. You're late. Natalie's text blinked across my screen, followed by a winking emoji. I smiled. Not attending. We'll catch up later. 3 dots blinked. Then her reply. Excuse me. I set my phone down. Heart beating not from nerves, but anticipation. This wasn't just business anymore. It was a lesson in loyalty and reality. At 9:23 a.m., my phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Philip, one of my former team leads. Morning. Phil, I answered softly. He didn't say hello. Monica. What the hell did you do? I stirred my coffee. What's going on? I'm outside the boardroom. It's chaos. Natalie walked in. Asked for you. Marjorie started explaining that you'd moved on. Something about restructuring. Preston tried some corporate fluff about evolving leadership models. I waited. Then Natalie cut them off. She said, and I quote, "If Monica's not leading this account, we're walking." His voice dropped to a whisper. She meant it. Just stood up, shook hands, and told them to call when they're serious about business. I exhaled slowly. Sounds about right? Monica. You should have seen their faces, he said, half laughing. Preston looked like someone unplugged his soul. I don't need to, I replied, standing and slipping my laptop into its case. They made their call. Now they can live with it. By 10:00 a.m., another call came in. James Carter. I let it ring twice before answering. James? Monica, he replied, overly pleasant. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Is that so? Yes. Look, there's no easy way to say this. We acted hastily last week. We truly value your contributions and want you back specifically to lead the Red Line account. I stepped outside, warm air brushing my face. Uh-huh. We're prepared to offer a revised package. A leadership role. New title. I said nothing. Let the silence stretch. Monica. His voice cracked just slightly. Please. That please nearly broke me, but only nearly. I glanced back at the cafe window. My table was still warm, my coffee half full. James, I said gently, you made your decision. And so did Natalie. I ended the call. The sky above me felt wider than it had in years. Not because I pitied him, but because it confirmed everything I'd quietly known. They never respected me. They used me until I became inconvenient. And now that the $80 million deal was collapsing, suddenly I was worth chasing again. I exhaled, slow and steady. If this story moved you even a little, go ahead and subscribe, not just to follow the next chapter, but to stand with stories that honor quiet strength, resilience, and the power of knowing your worth. James, I said calm and clear. I appreciate the call. I do. But I'm not coming back. A long pause. Monica, this is $80 million on the line. No. James, I replied, eyes focused on the horizon. What's on the line is my integrity. He started to speak again, but I ended the call before he could finish. I slid into the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, staring forward. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I was just done. I gave 6 years to that company. 6 years of strategy, grit, and sacrifice. And in the end, I was just a placeholder until they could find someone more refined, more connected, more Ivy League. The moment I no longer fit the image, they cut me loose. That wasn't a company worth saving. The only power that mattered now, knowing my value and refusing to compromise it. As I pulled out of the lot, my phone buzzed. A text. Natalie lunch. Me absolutely. My treat. I never looked back. Tuesday, 8:45 a.m. I sat across from Natalie Beck in a sunlit booth at Ember and Oak, the kind of quiet corner downtown where serious deals began without ever being called that. She stirred her tea eyes, sharp and unreadable. So she asked, "You're officially out." I nodded, sipping my coffee. As of Friday, restructured out. Monday morning, ghosted. She shook her head. I knew Preston was short-sighted, but I didn't realize James was self-destructive. I smiled faintly, though the heaviness in my chest still lingered. I'm not bitter. You should be. I met her gaze. I'm not. I'm just done giving myself to people who don't see the cost. Natalie leaned back, arms folded. Then after a pause, leaned forward again. That's exactly why I want to make you an offer. I blinked. An offer? I'm not just Redline's CEO. I also sit on the advisory board at Rath & Pierce, one of the fastest-growing logistics tech firms in the Midwest. We've been hunting for a business development director for months. I straightened slightly. I've heard of them. Solid reputation. Tech-forward. And client-focused, Natalie added casually. Sounds like your style. I set my cup down, eyeing her carefully. Are you asking me to interview? I'm asking you to have a conversation? She corrected. With their CEO, Aaron Pierce. I blinked. You already told him about me? She nodded. He's interested. Very interested. What surprised me more, she'd done it without asking, or that I didn't feel even a flicker of hesitation. You're serious? Natalie smiled. Dead serious. And if you end up there? Well, let's just say Redline is always looking for real partners. My heart thudded steady and sharp. You moved the deal. She gave a half shrug, sipping her tea. We signed nothing. And I'm not about to invest $80 million with a company that discards people like you. Integrity matters. I looked her in the eye. It matters to me, too. For the first time in over a week, I felt something unexpected. Not recovery, not revenge. Hope, not a lifeline. A door. By noon, I was sitting across from Aaron Pierce in his glass-walled office just outside Chicago. No mahogany, no ego portraits. Clean lines, filtered light, a single framed quote on the wall. Trust builds what money cannot. He greeted me with a firm handshake, no tie sleeves casually rolled. Natalie speaks highly of you, he said, and she doesn't hand out praise often. I smiled. She's earned the right to be tough. Exactly why I made time for this meeting, he replied, settling into his chair. I've looked into your work. Helix, Kingswell, Parker Systems. You build trust, not just contracts. I nodded. That's the only way they last. Aaron leaned back. That mindset is rare, and it's what we need. I waited, letting him lead. We've grown 60% in 2 years, but we're ready for the next leap. That means someone who understands business growth and loyalty, not just numbers. I folded my hands. And you think that's me? I don't think, he said. I know. No hesitation, no backdoor politics, no curiosity about where I went to school. Just a clean offer. A role I'd earned, on my own terms. What would the role look like? I asked, keeping my voice level. Director of Business Development, Aaron replied. Reporting directly to me. Full autonomy to shape strategy and build your own team. He paused, meeting my eyes. We'll support you and stay out of your way. My pulse picked up. He slid a folder across the table. Inside, a formal offer letter. Detailed, thoughtful. Base salary higher than anything I'd earned before. Bonus structure. Aggressive, but fair. Equity, real meaningful. I read through it twice, each line louder in my chest than the last. I won't insult you by asking for an answer right now, Aaron said, but I hope you'll consider it. I closed the folder with a soft thud. I don't need time. He raised an eyebrow. I'm in. Aaron smiled and extended his hand. Welcome aboard, Monica. As we shook, I felt something I hadn't in years. Not at Orion, not under James or Preston. Respect. I didn't walk out of that office with a job offer. I walked out with a clean slate, a real beginning. My first official day at Rath & Pierce was nothing like my first days at Orion. No laminated handbook. No HR orientation maze. No awkward small talk about where I went to school. Just a handshake from Aaron and a simple directive: do what you do best. So I did. That first week, I skipped conference rooms and scheduled intros. Instead, I met department heads at their own desks, in their own spaces. I asked questions that weren't on forms. Where do things get stuck? What frustrates our clients? What frustrates you? By the second week, I had a strategy. No glossy deck, no 90-slide vision board, just a tight, focused proposal built on one principle I'd carried for years. Clients don't buy contracts. They buy people. I pitched Aaron a new idea. Client first, agile teams, long-term thinking, fewer handoffs, more ownership. He glanced once at the summary, then nodded. Build it. And I did. The first call, I made Philip. He answered before the second ring. Monica? I smiled. Ever thought about making a change? A beat of silence. When do I start? He joined the following Monday. By the end of the month, 2 more former colleagues joined us. People I'd trusted at Orion, people who, like me, had grown tired of being passed over for flashier resumes and internal politics. We weren't poaching. We were building something better. By month 3, our team had landed 3 major contracts, one of them a $25 million deal that had sat in Orion's pipeline for over a year, stalled and ignored. Natalie followed through on her word, too. Redline officially signed with Rath & Pierce, transferring their $80 million contract to us. That changed everything. Word travels fast in this industry. Within weeks, my inbox lit up with familiar names, clients I hadn't heard from in years, contacts from conferences, former partners, quiet allies from long-forgotten project calls, and each of them asked the same question: why Rath & Pierce? I told them the truth. Because here results matter more than pedigree. Because here trust isn't a catchphrase. Because here value isn't measured by where you graduated, but how you show up. I never trashed Orion. I didn't need to. The facts said more than I ever could. By month 6, Rath & Pierce's market share had jumped nearly 40%. We weren't just landing new business, we were quietly absorbing Orion's. It wasn't revenge. Not really. But in this world, success makes a louder statement than payback ever could. One quiet Thursday, as I wrapped a call with a new logistics client, Philip walked into my office. Glass-walled, clean lines, simple, mine. He dropped a printed report on my desk. You'll want to see this. I glanced down. The headline stopped me. Orion Tech, second straight quarter of declining revenue. I scanned the article. Redline gone. 2 major clients lost. Stock down 25%. Whispers of internal restructuring. I tapped the paper gently. This was never about taking them down. Philip nodded. No. But it turns out, treating good people like they're disposable catches up with you. I met his eyes. It always does. Just then, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Monica. It's James. His voice was tight, strained. I leaned back in my chair, calm. Didn't expect this call. A long pause. I just wanted to check in. See how things are going? I almost laughed. They're going well, James. Very well. He cleared his throat. I won't take up your time. Just, if you're ever open to a conversation, I'd be willing. I let the silence hang for a moment before replying. Thank you. But I think we're on very different paths now. I ended the call gently, but with finality, because sometimes the most powerful response isn't anger, it's progress. That night, I walked into my apartment, dropped my keys on the counter, and poured a glass of wine. I wasn't the same woman who'd been dismissed 6 months ago. I wasn't chasing recognition anymore. I'd built it, on my terms, and I finally understood something I wish I'd known much earlier. When people show you what they value, believe them. Then choose to value yourself more. 3 months later, I stood before a wall of glass at the Global Logistics Summit in Chicago. The skyline blurred behind soft spring rain. Inside, the ballroom buzzed. Executives, startups, investors. Rath and Pierce wasn't just attending this year, we were headlining, and I was delivering the keynote. When Aaron first asked, I laughed. Me on stage, in front of 1,000 suits, but then I realized, why not me? I wasn't there because of a pedigree or a framed diploma. I was there because our client portfolio had tripled in under a year, because we closed the impossible deals, because our client retention rate was the envy of the room. That morning, I stepped onto the stage, heart thudding but steady. I spoke about trust, about relationships over transactions, about how results outlive resumes. When I walked off, the applause felt real. So did the conversations that followed. By noon, I had handshakes, proposals, and dinner invitations from firms I once thought unreachable, including some former Orion clients. And then I saw him, James Carter, near the registration desk, shoulders tight, gaze, scanning the crowd like he didn't belong in it anymore. I almost walked past, then our eyes met. He stepped forward slower than I'd ever seen him move. Monica? James? My voice was calm, professional. He gave a strained smile. You were impressive this morning. Thank you. A pause, a silence that said everything. He shifted awkwardly, adjusting his blazer. I wanted to reach out sooner. I nodded once, but didn't. He exhaled, eyes dropping to his hands. Orion's not in a good place. I said nothing. I didn't need to. We lost 3 major accounts this quarter. He continued. Redline was just the start. He paused. Preston's gone. The board asked for his resignation after the fallout. I met his eyes. And you? A flicker crossed his face. Exhaustion, maybe even regret. I'm still standing, he said. Barely. The board's exploring options. I tilted my head slightly. Options like restructuring. He hesitated. Options like selling. We're looking at a merger, maybe a buyout. For a brief second, something unexpected surfaced in me. Not satisfaction, not vindication, pity, not for James, not for the executives who pushed me out, but for the employees still inside working hard, staying loyal, getting left behind the same way I was. I see, I said quietly. James straightened. I came to ask if you'd consider coming back. I blinked. You're serious? He nodded slowly. We need leadership, credibility. Clients trust you. I looked at him for a long time. 6 months ago, I would have dreamed of this conversation. Now, the words rang hollow. You didn't value me when it counted, I said calmly. Why now? He swallowed. Because I was wrong. There was no ego in his voice this time. No spin. I was wrong about you. Wrong about what matters in this business. And I'm asking, truly help us. This is Orion's last shot. I didn't answer right away. Not to be cruel, but because my answer carried weight. James. I said finally, it's not personal, but I'm exactly where I want to be. His shoulders dropped just slightly. He nodded. I hope you figure it out, I added. For your team's sake. So do I, he said quietly. He turned to leave, but I stopped him with a final thought. For what it's worth, I hope this humbles you. He glanced back surprised. And I hope it makes you a better leader than you were to me. His eyes softened. Something almost like gratitude passed across his face. Then he nodded once and walked away. I think it already has, he said softly. And then he was gone. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the space he'd just left. That wasn't how I imagined it would end. But maybe that was the point. It was never about watching James fail. It was about realizing I didn't need him to see me clearly. I already had. I'd built something better. And this time, I wasn't walking away from it. 3 months later, I stood inside the glass-walled conference room of Rath & Pierce's Dallas headquarters, sunlight reflecting off the skyline. Around the table sat Philip, Natalie, and Aaron. We were reviewing final numbers for the quarter. Growth had exceeded every projection. We hadn't just hit targets, we'd rewritten them. Redline's partnership was thriving. Our client retention rate had reached a new high. And Orion. They'd been quietly absorbed in a last-minute private equity merger, stripped of name, culture, and leadership. I hadn't heard from James again. But I didn't need to. This moment wasn't about him. It was about us. Aaron leaned forward, scanning the summary. Monica, when you joined, I knew you'd drive results. But this? He paused, shaking his head. You've redefined how we operate. Philip grinned. And how we treat people. I looked around the table at these people leaders I respected, who respected me in return. It wasn't about ego anymore. It was about impact. When the meeting ended, Aaron walked beside me toward the hallway. Got a minute? He asked. We moved past open workstations, the quiet hum of focused teams filling the space. He stopped near the balcony and folded his arms. I wanted to say, thank you. I raised an eyebrow. For what? For betting on yourself. And for betting on us. I smiled. You gave me the space to do what I do best. He nodded. The board met this morning. We're expanding fast. And we want you to take on a larger role. I paused. Larger chief commercial officer. You'd report directly to me. Total leadership over client strategy, partnerships, and growth. I blinked. Aaron? He held up a hand. No pressure. Just know you've earned this. Every bit of it. For a moment, I said nothing. Not because I doubted, but because I finally understood I wasn't chasing titles or approval anymore. I had built this, and I was just getting started. On my terms. With my values. I nodded slowly. I'm in. Aaron smiled. I had a feeling you'd say that. We shook hands, and this time, it felt right. This wasn't a company using me to land a deal. This was a company that saw me for who I was and valued that. That evening, as the office lights dimmed and the Dallas skyline came alive, I sat at my desk in quiet reflection. 1 year ago, I'd been blindsided, stripped of a title, dismissed by people who couldn't see past a resume. And yet, here I was. I thought about Orion, about James, and how easy it would have been to stay angry. But bitterness doesn't build legacies. I'd learned that, the hard way, so I chose something else. I chose growth. I bet on the version of me they underestimated, and I won. Philip tapped gently on the glass. We're heading out for drinks. You coming? I smiled. Wouldn't miss it. I reached for my bag, pausing as my eyes caught the framed photo on my desk, a snapshot from our first team dinner, laughter. Rolled up sleeves, real joy. No suits, no scripts, no hierarchy. A reminder of what truly matters. Not power, not prestige, not the validation of people who never really saw you. But respect earned, given, shared. I walked out with my team into the warm Texas evening, and for the first time in a long time, I felt it free. The world hadn't changed. Boardrooms were still fueled by ego, corporate games still played in glass towers, but I had changed. I'd learned that when people show you who they are, believe them. And when you show yourself what you're capable of, never forget it. Because in the end, the only approval that ever truly matters is your own. And I finally had it. I'd love to hear what you think because stories like mine aren't rare. They're just rarely told. If you've ever been underestimated, passed over, or told you weren't enough because of where you came from, or what letters weren't behind your name, tell me in the comments. What did you do next? What would you have done differently? I want this to be a space for real conversations, not just story endings. Support isn't just about applause at the end, it's about connection in the middle. So if my journey resonated with you, take a moment to drop your thoughts below, share your experiences, and let someone else reading know they're not alone. Here's the advice I'd offer from where I stand now, 1 year after being dismissed and redefined. When people show you what they value, believe them, and then choose to value yourself even more. Don't waste years trying to earn approval from the wrong people. Use your energy to build something better, even if it's quiet. Especially if it's quiet. Power doesn't always shout. Sometimes it's found in the steady work, the unrecognized effort, and the silent choice to keep showing up for yourself when no one else does. You don't have to burn bridges to move forward, but you do have to stop begging for a seat at tables that were never built for you. And if you want to keep walking this road with me through the setbacks, the comebacks, and the wins no one saw coming, go ahead and hit subscribe. It's not just a button. It's a way of saying, yes, I see this too. and I believe in where it's going. The next part of this story is already unfolding, and I'd love for you to be part of it.